Episode 500. I'm grateful and thankful, but we still got work to do. Let's get to work. Have you ever found yourself explaining the same wound in different ways, hoping, praying that this time somebody will finally understand? Not because you wanted attention, not because you wanted pity, but because a part of you was still trying to prove that what happened to you was real, that it hurted, and that your response actually made sense. This is where a lot of people get stuck. They're not just trying to carry the pain, they are performing it in rooms that were never meant to hold the capacity well in the first place. And the longer that goes on, the more you start shrinking, second guessing yourself, over-explaining and normalizing the very disrespect that wounded you in the first place. See, there are moments in life where the wound, not just what happened. See, the wound is what happens after. You know what I'm talking about. You do your best to follow the guidelines. You do your best to move in good faith. You explain your reason. As a matter of fact, you made the decision, not the choice, to stay professional. And somehow, after the standard shift, your response actually now becomes the issue. Interesting. But when that happens, let me guess, you start thinking, oh, clarity will save you. Good guess. But it's actually wrong. See, you start believing one more explanation will finally make people see that you were trying to do the right thing. But some people are not listening for truth. They're actually listening for tone. They're actually watching your reaction. They are waiting to call what you are explaining to them as being defensive. So they never have to deal with the inconsistency that they created the wound in the first place. Okay, preach, I am. Therefore, what should have been a simple effort to create alignment becomes an explanation loop over and over. Okay, and the longer you stay there, the more you start performing pain for people who never intended to really actually carry you along in this journey. This is why this conversation today matters more than this 500 episode. Today's episode is really about healing. See, healing reaches a turning point when you stop asking the wrong role to validate what is never meant to hold your capacity in the first place. Principle number one, some people only validate suffering that looks a certain way, and yours probably doesn't fit. See, pain can cause real emotional, physical, this is suffering in general. See, suffering shows up in frustration, caution, silence, emotional fatigue, overthinking, and guarding oneself, or a quiet loss of confidence. See, a lot of people miss this completely. Your pain can be real and it still can go unrecognized. Your wound can be valid and still not fit somebody else's preferred image of suffering. Why is this important? If you don't understand this, you'll waste your time trying to make your pain more acceptable to people who never were equipped to see it in the first place. And when this happens, you start questioning whether what hurt you was serious enough to matter. But pain doesn't lose its power just because it did not arrive in the form other people respect. Wow, this is a shout moment. I'll shout for you. Shout. Experiment with these actionable tips. Stop asking, will they understand? You need to start asking, is this someone who has the capacity to hold this? Next one, write one sentence that validates your own experience so you stop waiting for someone else to say it. Here's my professional advice, family. Do not let someone else's narrow definition of suffering become the standard by which you're measuring your healing. Strong people, exceptional people often carry pain in quiet ways. That does not make it less real. It makes discernment more important. And once people fail to recognize your pain, something usually happens next. You try to over-explain yourself. Principle number two, the longer you stay in the explanation loop, the more you normalize the disrespect. Wow. The explanation loop happens when you keep revisiting the same wound over and over again, that same event, the same reasoning, in hopes that better wording will finally produce a better result. A better outcome, no, a better understanding. You explain again, you clarify again, you provide more context than you ever thought. But sometimes The problem is not a lack of explanation. Sometimes the room benefits from your exhaustion. Why is this important? The longer you stay in that loop, the more you are intentionally teaching people that they can keep demanding access to your explanation without ever changing their behavior. Over time, though, this does not create a resolution. It creates a pattern, and that pattern can train you to believe that being disrespected is just something you have to manage better. This is not professionalism. This is survival mode with a calendar invite. I like that, family. So experiment with these actual tips. Explain the situation clearly one time, then document it. You know the motto here. Documentation beats what? Documentation beats conversation. Do not keep re-arguing the same point. Next one. If you notice yourself explaining the same thing a third time, pause. Ask, is this clarity or am I chasing validation? Here's my professional advice, family. Explain once with clarity, document well, ask for alignment, but after a certain point, stop mistaking repetition for progress. If the facts are clear and the misunderstanding persists, the issue may no longer be confusion. It might be avoidance, control, or refusal to own the truth. And part of the reason people stay in the explanation loop is because they thought they were talking to someone safe. Principle number 3, not everyone who asks, "Are you okay?" wants an honest answer. That question sounds caring on the surface, but the root is not always coming from care. What do you mean by that, ED? See, sometimes it comes from curiosity. Sometimes it comes from obligation. Sometimes it comes from people trying to assess whether your pain is still active enough to affect the environment around them. Not every check-in is a safe place for true honesty. Why is this important? If you assume every soft question deserves a hard truth, you will end up handing vulnerability over to people who do not know how to carry them. That deepens the wound because now you're not only hurting from what happened, you are hurting from what happened after you told the truth. Discernment protects dignity. I like that, family. Experiment with these actual tips. Before answering honestly, ask yourself this question. Has this person earned access to the truth? Next one. Practice giving short professional responses instead of your full emotional context. Here's my professional advice, family. Do not confuse access with safety. Pay attention to patterns, not just language. See, a safe person does not only ask caring questions. Ooh, watch this, is going to get good. A safe person knows how to respond to honest answers without weaponizing them, minimizing them, or making you regret being vulnerable in the first place. And when that pain keeps getting exposed in rooms that do not know how to hold it, it starts doing something to you. It starts making you smaller. Principle number 4, performing pain for the wrong room shrinks you. Whew. I'm going to get a copy of this myself. See, every time you bring your wound into a room that lacks empathy, maturity, accountability, or emotional capacity, something, oh man, I feel a chip, starts chipping away. Maybe it's your confidence. Maybe it's the clarity that you once had. Maybe you forgot how to trust yourself, or maybe it's the willingness to ever, and I do mean ever, be open again. This is what happens when pain becomes performance. Why? Oh, why is this important? See, when you keep exposing pain to the wrong room, you begin to shrink in spaces where you should feel a foundation, basically feeling grounded. You edit your truth, you soften what happened, you question your instinct, and over time, that does not affect just healing. It really starts affecting your identity. Experiment with these actual tips. Pay attention to how you feel after conversation. If you constantly feel smaller, reduce emotional access to that room. Next one, share vulnerability information only with people who have demonstrated empathy and accountability. Here's my professional advice, family. Pay attention to how you feel after certain conversation. Your body is a true sign. See, your body often tells you what the room cannot hold before your mind is even ready to admit it. This is why you have to remember something very important. Your pain was never meant to become a pitch. Principle number 5, your scars are evidence, not a presentation deck. A scar is proof. See, it's proof that something happened. It's proof that it hurt. It's proof that healing took work, proof that you actually survived. But too many people take these scars into rooms like a presentation deck, hoping that if they explain them well enough, somebody will finally validate the significance of what they endured. Scars are not there to make your pain persuasive. They are there to remind you that your pain was real even before it was acknowledged. Why is this important? When you stop treating your scars like something that must be explained, defended, even sold, you begin to reclaim dignity. You stop needing an audience for your evidence. You start treating your healing like a case that must be won. Now, the scar belongs to your story, not their opinion. Experiment with these actionable tips. Next time you tell a story, remove the part where you try to convince people you're right. Message: you mind if I testify? I just want to tell you, family, this happens to us all. We are not immune to this. I just want to let you know that this particular action item is very important. So I'm going to repeat it again. Next time you tell a story, remove the part where you try to convince people you were right. Next one. If the verdict you're after, ask yourself this: what would I do if I never got it? Could I still trust what I know is true today? Here's my professional advice. Honor what happened without turning it into a presentation. There's a difference between telling your truth and putting your wound on display in hopes of finally receiving the response you wanted all along. One is power. The other is an emotional dependence. We're going for power, not emotional dependence. Let me explain this to you, family. Once you understand that, you will realize something else. The people who dismiss your pain were never fit to judge your healing. Principle number 6, the person who minimizes your pain is rarely qualified to define your recovery. It's dangerous when people who overlook you, dismissed you, misunderstood you, or contributed to your pain still hold influence over you. How is this even possible? See, you start wondering whether you are taking too long. You start questioning whether should you be over it by now or not. But the one who minimized the damage was never qualified to determine the timeline of your repair. Why is this important? If you let minimizers shape your healing, you stay emotionally tethered to the very people who mishandled your pain in the first place. That keeps their voice louder than your own wisdom. And you can delay progress because instead of listening to what healing actually requires, you keep listening to people who never were honest about the wound to begin with. Experiment with these actual tips. Write down the voices that shape how you see the situation. Then remove the ones who dismiss the wound. Next one, I want you to ask yourself, if their opinion didn't exist, what would healing actually look like for me? Family, I want you to take back the authority to define what healing looks like for you. That does not mean being reckless, being bitter, or shutting down, because that doesn't help you or anyone else that is looking to come along to support you on a journey. It does mean refusing to let the least trustworthy voices become the loudest voices in your recovery, or what we say is basically stop allowing people to move in to your place and pay free rent. Okay, you don't like that? Let me remix it. Stop allowing people to influence you that was never supposed to influence you in the first place. Let me explain this to you. Once their authority starts breaking, another truth starts standing up. Stopping it is not weakness. Stopping it is actually self-respect. Principle number 7, self-respect means knowing when to stop making your case. Again, self-respect means knowing when to stop making your case. There comes a point, family, where continuing to explain yourself is no longer about clarity. It's actually about hope. Hope that one more conversation, hope that finally I'll get a fair shot, hope forget about it. But self-respect knows when enough has already been said. My mom would always say, my grandma would say the same thing. Son, once you get sick and tired of being sick and tired, this is when and only when will you take massive action. See, it knows the difference between being clear and actually being trapped. Why is this important? If you never learn when to stop making your case, you will continue to return to those rooms that have already shown you their limit. That costs energy. That costs confidence. That costs what I care about most in this world is a peace of mind. Knowing when to stop is not quitting. That's actually wisdom. Experiment with these actionable tips. After you clearly explain something once, shift from explaining to documenting. Next one. Practice ending conversations with, I've shared my reasoning. Please let me know what's not clear. If not, then let's move forward into what we need to accomplish here today. Here's my professional advice, Phil. Knowing when to stop is not quitting. It's the moment you decide that your dignity matters more than winning a hearing in a room that has already chosen its narrative. Document what matters. Speak with clarity. Maintain professionalism, but do not keep bleeding just because the room enjoys watching you explain that wound. And once you stop performing, something really powerful becomes available. What I love to call the lesson. Principle number 8, the lesson is more valuable than the sympathy. Oh, this is good. Sympathy can make you feel good for the moment. It's soothing. It's comforting. It can even make you feel seen. But sympathy, by itself, it rarely transforms you, but that lesson does. See, that lesson, it teaches you discernment. That lesson, it sharpens boundary. That lesson, it exposes patterns. That lesson, it strengthens your instinct. That lesson helps you recognize the room faster next time. That is where the real value lives, not in finally getting everyone to feel bad for what happened, but in becoming wiser because of what happened to you. Why is this important? If your goal remains sympathy, you will stay emotionally connected to that wound. But if your goal, which I know it should be, and it can be, is basically to take a lesson from this, you start carrying something forward that pain cannot take back. Ooh, that's powerful. See, that is how suffering stops being your identity and starts becoming part of your instructional manual. Experiment with these actionable tips. Write down one lesson this experience taught you about people, boundaries, or environments. Next one. Identify one boundary you will apply next time you see these patterns. Here's my professional advice, family. Take the wisdom, leave the performance. Take the wisdom and leave the performance. Ask yourself what this season taught you about people, environments, boundaries, and your own response to these patterns. See, that kind of peace, you refuse to negotiate going forward. That growth does not erase pain, but it does keep pain from having the final say in your story. And that is really the real shift. Healing gets stronger when it stops begging to be understood by people who never carried the weight in the first place. Here's the truth, family. Stop performing pain for people who never carried it. Stop dragging your scars into rooms that only know how to study your reactions. Stop mistaking repeated explanation for meaningful resolution. And last but not least, stop handing your healing over to people who was never qualified to define it in the first place. Here's my challenge to you. Your pain is real. Your scars are their evidence. Your recovery is yours and yours alone. And the lessons you carry from it all will always be worth more than any sympathy you keep trying to earn. See, the road to using it for good starts now, and only now. When you see that, dignity returns. Self-respect gets louder. This is where healing stops performing and actually stands tall. Family, if this resonated with you, don't rush past it. Choose one principle. Practice it intentionally this week. And if you know a project manager who's questioning themselves right now, send this to them, please, immediately. And for those who want to build confidence, judgment, leadership, depth over time, you'll find my mentorship and coaching link in the episode. I go by the name of ED. For all you smart and intelligent folks out there, hey, listen, that just simply means Ed. Until next time.